I would like to first of all thank the trustees of 9H1 UHF-R and also of 9H1 DMR-L for their great service that they do to the ham radio community. Pause. I will have to pause again because I think that the traffic in the background will disturb you. Anyway, the reason for this net is to, well, talk about amateur radio and also sometimes about any other subject. And we accept, shall we say, not accept, we welcome radio hams from all over the world. It is held presently at 1800 UTC, 1800 Zulu, 1900 UK time, and 2000 local Central European time, or again at 1400 Eastern time, Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Just give me a minute. Are there any stations with announcements for the net this evening? Please call now. Hearing none? Well, that's what my brother used to say, or does say. I welcome anyone who would like to check in. Please slowly, twice, phonetically, and if you want, you can include your name as well. This is 9 Hotel 1 Foxtrot Bravo Sierra, Charles, in Sliema, Malta, where the weather is just beautiful.
Golf 0, Bravo, India Alpha, G0, Bravo, India Alpha. The name is Ian, India Alpha November, situated on the east coast of England, just south of the River Tees, where the outside temperature this evening is 11 degrees. So it's cool, but it's a clear blue sky, so it's going to get cold tonight. So very good evening to everybody, and we'll stand by for your lucid tones there, Charles, with your enlightenment. Just one question for you from my ex-wife. She asked if you partially sighted or not, and I said I don't think so, but anyway, no doubt you'll correct me during the evening's procedures. 9 has 0 Bravo India Alpha.
Nine Hotel 2 Oscar Charlie, 9 Hotel 2 Oscar Charlie, Owen, QTH Mosta.
9 Hotel 5 Fox Alpha, Anthony, QTH Ricara.
The name is Jerry, Golf Echo Radio Yankee, and the QTH is a small town in the northeast corner of Wyoming, approximately 24 miles or 40 kilometers south of the Wyoming-Montana border. The name of the town is Sheridan, Sierra Hotel, Echo Radio, India Delta, Alpha November. Population about 18,000. Beautiful day, and hopefully we're heading towards fall or autumn. And if we don't have a topic for tonight, I have one. Thanks to the conversation that we had just before the net. November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey.
This is 9 Hotel 1 Tango Lima. Name is Chris. 9 Hotel 1 Tango Lima. My current QTH is in Ormy. Good evening, good afternoon to all.
I don't think that the system is going to work. Somebody, Anthony, did you take all the call signs? I did not get the name of 9H1, 9H2 Oscar Charlie. I got Mosta, but I didn't get the name. So maybe you'll tell me that. And I think it's going to happen because it doesn't work. When I go to the other program to see who comes next, I cannot access Echo Link unless I come back to it. So that's a slight problem which we'll have to look into. I think I can find a solution to that one, no problem. But not tonight, Josephine, as they say. Anybody else who would like to join? 9 Hotel 1 Fox Bravo, Sugar.
9H1 SBS, this is 9H5 okay. I'm taking down signings as well. And 9H2 Oscar Charlie's Owen Atta. He's one of the new radio amateurs, got his license a couple of months ago. Back to 9H1 SBS, this is 9H5 FA.
To Lima Mike.
The station with Lima Mike, can you say it again, please? You were cut off at the beginning.
To Lima Mike.
First, press the microphone, wait for 2 seconds, remember that you're on a repeater, and then I take it that is 9 Hotel 2 London, Mexico, is that correct?
Roger.
Okay, so let's see. Jerry says he's got a topic, but let's go through the list. I think I can do this actually. I'm not as slow as I thought I was. G0BIA to take it. 9H1 SBS. Go ahead. And let me see who you have to give it to.
Jarcade 1, Jarcade.
Oh, shut up.
9H2OC.
Then you give it to Owen, 9 Hotel 2 Oscar Charlie. Go ahead, Ian.
Echo Link.
Been keeping you on your toes, HR, as it were. So I thought you were the subject tonight. I thought that's what was written on the circular that you sent out earlier today. So I was looking forward to hearing of your experiences with your difficulties. What would we say it was? A bit missing. I know it sounds funny. I'm not meaning funny or disrespectful, but we'll be interested to see what the other side looks like. From Golf Zero, Bravo Indian Alpha, Musk by the Sea on the east coast of England.
Are you sure you don't have a mouse nibbling at your microphone? You have clicking noises. Okay, so Owen, how are you, my friend? Congratulations, welcome. And This is your, shall we say, baptism of fire. We had enough fire this summer, but today it's nicer, much nicer. It's about 25 degrees out there, and I was in the balcony. That's why I came late, because I got carried away. So, apologies from my side. 9H2OC, 9H1FBS.
9H1FBS, nice to hear you, Charles. Thank you. I'm glad also to hear 9H2 Lima Mike with us. He was doing the course with me as well. So, as Ian was saying, I was looking forward to hearing a little bit your experiences about the hobby and so on and so forth. So, I will pass it now to Anthony, 9H5 Foxtrot Alpha, 9H2 Oscar Charlie.
9H1FBS, 9H2 Oscar Charlie, and the rest of the group. This is 9H5FA. Charles, I was under the impression I sent out a notice that you were going to talk about ham radio for the visually impaired. But if that's not the case and it wasn't prepared, don't worry, we can do it some other time. But I remember you had suggested it once, and when I received your message, I thought Jesus, I've got a cold and I'm a bit hoarse. So, Charles, I don't know, it's up to you, but maybe it was my mistake after all. Back to the floor. This is 9 Hotel 5 Foxtrot Alpha.
Don't worry, Anthony. I was trained in public speaking. At the drop of the coin, I can go. So, who's next? Let's see, who is next?
Jartate 1, Jartate 2.
There you go.
9H1PL, N7AP.
And 7APW. Go ahead.
Echo Link, 9.
Charlie, you have a lot of white noise on your audio. I doubled with you. I don't know who won, so somebody can tell us, I'm sure. But I'll pass it back.
Go ahead, you make your transmission and then pass it to the next one.
Well, good evening to everybody. It's nice to hear everybody's voice. It's nice to know that everybody is doing well. Nice to meet our new ham, 9H2. And oops, there's where my memory fails me. But anyway, good evening to you as well, and thank you for checking into the net. And I was telling Anthony, my sincere apologies. I didn't read the flyer this morning, and so I may be the one who thought that there was no topic for the net. 9H1FBS with the group N7APW.
Yeah, well, I suggest that everybody takes notes because, well, I think I can handle it, but we're learning this way, and I think I can do it the other way. I can use my telephone notes and take them down there. So, 9H2LM, what is your name? And I think you said you are in Mosta. Go ahead. Okay, that there was a slight mistake on my part. Chris, go ahead, 9H1 Tango Lima.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is 9 Hotel 1 Tango Lima, Chris. I came in a bit late and I had some connection issues. I'm in through Echolink. I'm so not quite sure what the topic is for today, but I
see today. Are you still with us? Go ahead. Later. 9H2 Tango, Lima Mike. Can you make a transmission, please, sir? Anthony, I know that I didn't call you in, but your voice, I hope that the white noise has gone. And I wonder what happened to 9H2 Lima Mike, and maybe you can relay his name to me, please.
9H1FPS, 9H5FA. 9H2 Lima Mike is Lee, LWE, Martin, Alpha Romeo, Tango, India, November. So Lima, Echo, Echo, Lee, and Martin, Mike, Alpha Romeo, Tango, India, November. He's also a new radio amateur. He must have got disconnected somehow. But he'll come back on, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, you sound much better than I sounded about two and a half weeks ago. I was much more blocked than you are. These summer colds are just crazy. Lee, are you still with us? Please go ahead. Do we have any more check-ins before we start the presentation? This is 9 Hotel 1 Fox Bravo Sugar, coordinating.
uh, 9H1 FBS is 9H1 Tango Lima, Chris. Just want to make sure that I'm managing to be heard because I'm having some bad connection issues. Just want to make sure that that you can hear me.
Loud and clear, no problem. I had those issues yesterday, Chris. I had them yesterday. Would you like to make a transmission before I start my long presentation?
Thanks, Charles. No, go ahead with your presentation. I'm all ears.
Charles, if you may, before you start, just one small feedback from me. Yeah, my voice may sound better, but remember that I'm a pharmacist, And what I do is I take all the meds that the doctors say I don't need. And I know there's a doctor with us here on air. So in the moment I'm suppressing my symptoms. Back to 9H1FBS. This is 9H5FA.
Well, they say that doctors are the worst patients, but maybe pharmacists are the same. Chris, everybody pulls my leg, so now I'm going to pull everybody else's. Pharmacist and doctor, no, they go together. Oh yeah, one doctor was, well anyway, that's another subject for another time. Okay, this is 9H1FBS. Do we have any more check-ins for the 9H HAM GlobalNet, please? Okay, so this is 9H1FBS. I do have my timer on Echolink set on I think 2.5 or 3 minutes, so if I overdo it, it will automatically cut me off. Do I still have, Jerry, do I still have the white noise?
No, Charlie, we're ready for your presentation, N7APW.
So it was, okay. Okay. This is not H1FBS. This whole thing started on about May, to the month of May 1969, when, well, basically I couldn't see. I started seeing a lot of fog, and eventually going to the hospital, they told me that I had a problem, and the problem increased until in a few days I became totally blind. At first I used to see light and the color yellow, just light and the color yellow. And I believe that either our doctor friend or our pharmacist can tell me why, but I think I know why as well. And I started going to what was then the Centro Talomia, Center for the Blind, in Santa Verena. But before that, I was assigned to a teacher, one-to-one, to learn Braille and the typewriter. So you can imagine what a great joy it was when I started to use the computer, and my keyboard skills, of course, were, well, the way everybody types when they are professionals, touch typing, and I found it very, very easy to access the keyboard. In our case, we do access the keyboard more than the mouse. The mouse is too fast for the systems we use. So coming back to 1969, one of the teachers at the Center for the Blind donated a shortwave radio to me. I remember it was made of wood, and I don't know if the company still exists, but it was an HMV receiver. I'm going to take a pause. And we started to listen, a wire antenna on the roof. We used to live in Birkirkara. I will spell, well, for the, I think Ian knows where Birkirkara is, so I don't have to spell it. And we put this wire antenna on the roof, and oh boy, the BBC World Service, Radio Switzerland, Radio Netherlands, the Netherlands, I don't know, ORTF in France, RAI, and they used to have a transmission on RAI, on shortwave, in the 41 meter band, where they used to broadcast to Malta in Maltese. And when my mother heard it the first time, she said, during the war we used to listen to this. Of course, it was a different person. And during the war, 1940-45, of course, the station used it for propaganda purposes. And it was nice. Then there was these two Maltese gentlemen who used to make a 5-minute transmission from London. In Maltese, it used to be called Dini Alondra. This is London. And we used to have a cable radio system called rediffusion. They used to rebroadcast it at, I believe, something like 7 o'clock in the evening. But it used to go out earlier. If I remember correctly, either the 25 or the 31 meter band. I will pause. And I was impressed that when I heard the broadcast on rediffusion, there was more noise to it than on my radio. You know, the stuff like that, you know. And so although it was not really a communications receiver, and my brother as well, who is on the net N7APW, we used to listen to this and of course enjoyed it. And the head teacher of this place, for our Maltese listeners, it used to be very close to Romeo Romano Garden. After we moved from there as visually impaired people, it was called Gubbio. Golf Uniform Bravo Juliet Oscar, Gubbio. And this person, his name, he's deceased now, Joe Feneconti, got in contact with Mr. Ron Meachin, who's also a silent key, who besides being a radio amateur, he was also in charge of the radio and all that stuff at the Technical Institute in Paula. I am going to take a pause. This is 9H1FBS for ID purposes. And my brother offered to go there. Of course, he started learning about amateur radio again, and I believe, maybe you could correct me on this, Jerry, I believe your license was either 1974 or 1975, but when my turn came, the local authorities, having no previous experience of blind people in this ham radio, started to, well, shall we say, object. That would be the name of the word to use. And of course, the more they objected, the more I was determined to take the amateur radio license. To cut a long story short, To cut a long story short, the amateur radio license, I sat for the exam locally and also for the Morse test, and I got my license, believe it or not, in May, almost on the same day when I became blind in 1969, but 12 years later. So it was a long, shall we say, trip between 1969 and 1981, 12 years. I think I have somebody connected to me. Let's see who it is. Any more check-ins for the net? This is 9H1FBS. Okay, so connected to me there's 9H2 Mike Echo. Welcome. Oh, he's disconnected now. Didn't give me a chance. So I'm going to stop here for now. Any questions so far? Because the next bit is not very long. This is 9H1FBS.
TZM, Golf 3 Tango Zulu Mike, Philadelphia Tiger.
Good evening, Bill. To Mike Echo, are you on? Well, he connected to me and no more. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Manage on FPS, this is manage 5FA. Yeah, you're talking of a period when I was still a young kid. How was the support, the general support for people with vision issues in those days? I mean, today there are support groups, there are companies which provide gadgets and tools to make sort of independent, to be more independent. But how was the situation then? I expect it was quite a shock and bringing about, too many questions to answer at that time. 9H1 FPS, this is 9H5 FA.
Let me put it this way, Anthony. I had the privilege of attending normal primary school before I became blind. The headmaster of the school did not encourage me, because I was not 100% sighted, to sit for the Lyceum examination, and so the knowledge I have now, I mostly got from books from the Royal National Institute, then for the blind, now it's for blind people, in London. I used to get books from there. I even got the RL handbook with circuits which were embossed in Braille on my initiative, and of course my brother helped. The main support I had is from the family. Suffice it to say that in my case all I was taught was Braille and typing. No white stick, no guide dogs, no encouragement at all to be more mobile and go outside. And I can give you an example. The first guide dogs in Malta came after the year 2000. I think it was 2005 or 6. And also the first mobility trainers were trained abroad, but they came, of course, to Malta around the same time. So all the people who either were born blind or became blind were not given any training at all in mobility and orientation. That is what it is technically called. There was a pension which was from the age of 14. Stand by. The reason being, and it still starts at the age of 14, later becoming the pension for persons with disability. It still starts at 14 because the age of school leaving at that time was 14 years of age. Obligatory education was up to 14, later coming to 16. I believe that in the USA it is 18. The education system keeps you there keeps you there till you're 18. There was only one blind organization to speak of, mostly led by sighted people who would co-opt one another into the committee. It was changed in 1992. A few friends and myself changed the statute so that blind people would be elected on the committee of this society. On the other hand, I think that today there are too many organizations, but this is my personal opinion, so don't take it as gospel, for blind people and visually impaired, low vision, etc., etc. Some of them are very small, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, and I was with a friend this afternoon having a nice pre-birthday lunch because my birthday is on Sunday, and I don't see any sense of this great thing we have of dividing, or shall I say, instituting a lot of different organizations for the same cause. But as I said, that is my personal. But definitely there is much more support now. There are guide dogs now being trained locally, and also people being trained in mobility and orientation, i.e. the use of the white stick. Does that answer your question, sir?
From the PS985FA perfectly. It puts a lot of context in the situation in the 1970s. I asked that question because I always know there's an extremely independent person who can do anything that anyone else can do. And yeah, you came a long way. Back to you, 9H1FPS. This is with the 9H HAM GlobalNet. This is 9H5FA.
Well, my friend, you can either call it hard-headedness or determination. Pick. I think it's a bit of both. So yeah. But I had a lot of help from the family. My brother and myself used to go out quite a lot. We played. I don't know if there is one village in Malta where we didn't play guitar and entertain people, and you know, that's a great source of encouragement. Music, acting, all the arts are a great source of encouragement to everybody, but also to people who are visually impaired. 9H1FBS.
And 7APW.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what your next part is, Charlie, but I could kind of elaborate on what the situation was somewhere in the 70s as well. But if you're going to continue on that, then I'll listen to what you have to say first.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to keep it as close as possible to ham radio. So the bit I have now would be you. In 1978, my brother went to the USA, and of course, the first thing I did is went out to a shop in Gzira and bought myself a good communications receiver. If I remember correctly, it was the FRG-7, Fox Romeo Golf 7. And I used to listen to, well, I could listen to SSB and etc., etc., etc. What I forgot to tell you all is that there was a net on Sunday morning on 80 meters. And with this His Master's Voice receiver, we could access 80 meters, and it was in AM. And that is where the spark of the amateur radio enkindled in me. So the rest is history, I believe. I got more enthusiastic about the hobby, and of course, here I am now. Although I don't have any HF equipment now, I was very, very active on HF. I can tell you all that I was helped quite a bit from the States by you-know-who. Well, not Voldemort, don't worry. We got this equipment, and we got some people together, put up the antenna. I had a 3-element TH3 beam. The first transceiver I had on HF was by Kenwood, TS180S, and then I graduated to the Tango Sugar 440S. And when propagation was good, we used to really get some very, very good signals and constant signals from all over the world. We used to speak to Australia, the States. Well, you know the story. I think that I have overstayed my stay. I think I took more time than I anticipated, but if anybody else has any more questions, just go ahead. This is 9 Hotel 1 Fox Bravo Sierra.
Charlie on 7 APW.
Okay, go ahead with your whatever question or statement or whatever. And 7 APW 9H1FBS.
No, I guess first of all, thank you. But I guess I have a little more insight into the whole process. Obviously, let me first go back to the 70s, maybe around 1974 when I got my license, or before. The times were different, of course, and this was novel to the island. And in all fairness to everybody, somebody walked into the office of the Prime Minister Wireless Telegraphy Branch, which is what it was called at that time, and said, I would like to get a ham radio license or an amateur radio license, which had never been done before on the island, not necessarily around the world, but not on the island. So that's novelty in itself. And so obviously, a first time for anything is hard. And it doesn't matter who you are, and it really doesn't matter, how much you love your job. it now all of a sudden is something new, and you have to find time and etc. Somebody does anyway, because it's a fair request. You know, if a sighted person can get a license, why can't a person with any kind of disability, sighted or not? I'll give a break here. And so, you know, the immediate reaction, which I thought wasn't a bad one, was, you know, in order for us to even consider that, the authorities said someone in that same household has to be licensed. And since we're only two brothers, I said, well, that sounds like me. And so as Charlie said, you know, we both went actually to the classes at the Technical Institute. I took my City of Guilds exam, and I took my Morse code and got my license. And in those times, or during that period, and this is on 7APW for applause, during that period, you were a lot more restricted than you are today. You couldn't buy a radio prior to having a valid ham radio license. You had to set up your station the way you were going to operate it. It had to be under lock and key. And then one of the inspectors from the Office of Wireless Telegraphy would choose a day after you got licensed and come and inspect your station. And if they deem it to be safe for you to operate without killing yourself, and if they also decide that you are qualified to tune a radio, not by pushing a button, but by turning knobs and loading it and everything like that. Today, obviously, push a button, auto-tune, and there you are. But anyway, and so they have to check all that. And now, as you can just imagine, you know, they have to do that for everybody, no matter who's trying to be licensed. And I'll give applause. It obviously becomes an additional challenge, and it's one that has to be dealt with the same way as everybody else, to be fair with everybody. And so that's interesting. I'm going to give applause, Charlie, here. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think someone else checked in. Let me look real quick. 9H2 Mike Echo is back on Echo Link, and welcome back, James. Nice to hear you. I'll pass it back to you, Charlie, and see if anybody has any comments or questions, and we'll keep going. November 7, Alpha Papa Whiskey with the 9H Ham GlobalNet.
And I also would like to acknowledge Bill, G3TZN, and Mike Echo was connected to me, but I'm happy that he's connected to the Echo Link. Okay, well, that is called these days discrimination, what you were saying, and it definitely cannot be done. But, you know, I mean, history is all disabled people all over the world have, as we say in Maltese, R.O. Lara Taddem, sweated blood, sweat, to get to where they are today. Also in very, well, shall we say, advanced countries. What is taboo today was definitely not taboo in those days. That is my only comment. I remember a time when I had to take somebody with me to the bank so I could withdraw or pay the bank money which belonged to me. Now, today it's unthinkable, but up to a few years ago, probably before the year 2000, it was the bank asked you to get somebody sighted with you so you could withdraw from your own account. So that was the situation. Today, if something like that happens, I think that there would be quite quite a big thing. Papers, news, etc., etc., etc. So that's my comment to your comment. Does anybody else have any questions?
Okay, so now Charlie has his license, and he has his station set up, and it passed inspection, and he's on the air. One of the first obstacles right off the bat is, excuse me, are you transmitting within the ham bands? Now let's see here. You have a radio. It may even have a digital display. But you can't see it. And so, and this obviously is a recurring problem through time. You can't change that. Even now, and I'll put these two together in a minute. So, you know, the reason he went from a Kenwood 180 to a TS 440 is because on the TS 440 there was a chip or a board that you can insert in the 440 that would read out the frequency display. Now, unless the radio is badly calibrated, you know what your band restrictions are, and you know whether you're transmitting in the right side of the band. You know, on frequency or you know, and even something simple as someone saying, oh, let's move to 14.287, and you are maybe on 14.302. That's a challenge if you can't see where you were and where you're going. And it still exists today. In fact, Charlie and I are both very active on DMR. And you know, I bought an Anytone DMR digital radio, and that's fine, but it doesn't read out the frequency or the display. But so I had to before really encouraging Charlie to get on DMR, I had to find a radio for him that had the ability of reading what was on the display, whether it's a call sign or a frequency or a talk group or whatever. So, you know, that's an eternal challenge. And this is N7APW, back to the group.
Yeah, well, I'm going to make a comment. The 180 also had that chip, and the 878 is now able to talk as well. Just to get you up to date, because of course I'm on a blind hams list, and they talk about these things regularly. So even the 180 had this voice chip. You can check it if you want. Go to Google and you can Google it. Kenwood TS180S, and it has the voice chip. And the beautiful thing about it was you didn't have to tune it up, because it was solid state. So that's my final comment about that subject.
And obviously you've been very active on HF, and you're quite active on DMR as well. So is there anything that, excuse me, is there anything that you still find challenging in navigating, let's say the DMR radio, because that's what you really use mostly, and maybe the VHF radio that you have from time to time? Is there anything that's still extremely challenging, or is it just a matter of time and becoming familiar with whatever everything does?
It depends on many things, because I have a guy from your side of the globe who only has one channel, Talk Group 91. And that's funny because he said that the guy who was programming his handheld did not manage to program any other channels in, so I don't know what the problem is. Maybe one day I can. It's the most used channel on DMR for those of you who don't use DMR. It's like a call channel. Everybody gets on TG91, Talk Group 91. And the flexibility is very restricted if you only have one channel, of course, because it's very, very crowded most times of the day. So in my case, I managed to go to other talk groups, and by pushing a few buttons, if I don't have the channel, if I don't have the talk group, I can press a button and input the talk group number, and then
21:0.
hey presto, there I am. So it's also a question of getting to know your handheld in a very good way. I think there are some things which I don't know about it, but at least I can move wherever I want to. If I want to go to the 2780 Maltese talk group, I can go there. I can go anywhere I would like. So yeah, it's much more easy. It's easier these days to go into ham radio as a blind or low vision person.
I'm just curious if someone can tell us how many licensed blind hams are on the island, or actually, how many licensed handicapped hams are on the island?
And 7APW9H5FA. That's a very interesting question. I only know one other vision compromised ham, licensed ham, and I don't believe there is any community or well, Charles might be able to say this. I don't believe there's any community which or NGO or anything which actually pushes ham radio to visually impaired people. So yeah, that's an interesting question, but I don't have a reply to it. I'm not sure anyone does. Well, Charlie might. Back to the floor. This is 9H5 affair.
Let me try to answer that one, Anthony, if nobody else has any ideas. The organization I belong to now, which is called, I'm not plugging it, it's called Visual Non-Visual Network, mainly use phones. And there is a particular phone made in the Czech Republic, which is very, very accessible to blind and low vision people. And I don't know if I can say the name here, but besides giving you access to your list of calls, incoming, outgoing, the people you want to put in on the list. It has many other functions, amongst which are things like Facebook Messenger, for example, or WhatsApp. And also there is Telegram, and I even use it to cook. I don't cook the telephone, don't worry about it. There is a timer. Let me see if I can. I think it's called minutes and timer. And when I put food in the microwave or in the oven, for example, yesterday I was baking for the first time since I've been in the past 2.5 years, pasta in the oven. And I had a friend over, and suffice it to say that she went for a second selfie. So I'm not doing too bad, am I?
Well, as we talked earlier, there are now many more aids to help people along who can't do stuff themselves. I don't know. I guess I can qualify myself. I can't walk anymore, hardly any distance at all. Obviously, ham radio is still very very present in my life. The phone doubles as a way to communicate on Echolink and Peanut and DMR and all that. In case somebody's interested, if you want a good taste of DMR, and you have a phone, a smartphone, there is software that has zero cost that will allow you to connect through your phone and through the internet, of course, over to the DMR network and some other networks as well. But it's basically DMR, digital mobile radio, although it is mobile, I suppose. But and it is free. And so if somebody would like to just listen or dabble or listen and transmit, I'm pretty versed in it, and so is Anthony. And I don't just want to put you out there, Anthony, but I know you are. And maybe before buying some equipment, or maybe you don't use it often. You won't use it often enough to require buying equipment. Maybe you need to look at the software. The software is called Droid Star. Droid is short for Android, and so it's Droid Star, one word. I think it's also available for the iPhones, but I'm not sure about that. This is N7APW with some more information.
It is Dude Star.
Is that Delta Uniform Delta Echo?
You're asking the wrong person, but I think that's the way Dude is spelled. And maybe somebody could check it on his Google. Dude Star, yeah, that's for the iPhone.
Good, Charlie. Thank you for that. And this is N7APW with the 9H HAM GlobalNet. Old habits never die. I'll stand by now and listen to perhaps some more comments or questions.
Yeah, for the sake of Chris, if he's still here, I became blind because of a detachment of the retina.
It clearly was not an easy journey, not just in ham radio but everything else. But when it comes to ham radio, I'm really happy that when I see people who persevere where there's some sort of resistance, when someone says that you can't do this, but you prove otherwise, that yes, you can. Silent comment.
Every country in the world, guys, because I believe we're all the guys here, there are unsung heroes who along this, especially this past 100, 150, 170 years, made a lot of big steps so that conditions for persons with different disabilities, not handicapped disabilities, if you don't like the word, that's the official word that everybody uses, enhanced the way that people could access different things, ramps on pavements for wheelchairs, etc., etc., etc. That's just the beginning, because then, okay, you're on the pavement, you're on the sidewalk, but how do you get into the shop? It's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2 steps. So through legislation and also etc., etc., these things have changed and have changed dramatically. And I am so glad that there are people, many people, much wiser than I, who have made these great steps to better the persons with disability, all disabilities, blind, deaf, intellectually impaired, physical disabilities, etc., etc., etc. I wonder who invented the wheelchair. If I meet him in heaven, I will definitely shake his hand. This is 9H1FBS standing by.
That was very good information, Charlie. Thank you.
Information which some don't know. The typewriter was primarily invented so that blind people could write to sighted people, and that's hundreds of years ago. So just imagine how long, what a long period of time it took so that things get better and better and better.
This is 9 Hotel 1 Tango Lima, Chris. Just have a quick question, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
When it comes to inclusion, it very much helps when there's a sort of, how am I going to explain? this when there's a point of reference to some kind of media, some show on television or radio or books, because it's very hard to condense the experience of people who have different sets of challenges, and it's very hard to condense it in a presentation like yours. So I admire the fact that you've managed to describe some of your experiences. But it does help if for many other people who are not visually impaired to appreciate the challenges. Perhaps there might be some books or shows which aren't exactly for education per se, but they're for leisure. But perhaps from that leisurely viewing of a show or reading of a book, it could help better understand the experiences of someone else. So I like to describe. I like to mention this film, this film called Switched at Birth. It's not a film; it's actually a series on television, and it basically describes the experiences of. So the protagonist basically is someone who is who cannot hear properly, they're auditory impaired. I'm not sure what the exact terminology is, but basically someone who is deaf. I was wondering, Charles, if there's some kind of some series on television or a book or something that is meant primarily for people who are not visually impaired, but who perhaps might then better understand the experience of people who are. So that's my question to you, Charles.
You're like one of the MPs. You get along. You came to the end of it, but are you speaking about described movies, for example?
Not so much describe movies, but perhaps films that but which where the protagonist is indeed someone who is blind, and the day-to-day challenges, like a sort of slice of life kind of film or series, where basically those challenges are sort of they would be the plot of the show, so to speak, and how those challenges are overcome, which show that protagonist is a sort of hero of the day, sort of. I don't know if I'm trying to convey something that quite honestly I don't understand, but I do want to understand the sort of experience much more, because a lot of people I do meet are visually impaired. Because I am a doctor, so some of them will have different complications of other conditions, and I only get to see a very small snapshot of their life when they come to me with or whatever condition. But there's so much more to life than the few minutes that I get to see them in hospital. So I just like to explore their point of view, but not necessarily through a described film, because I think by described film you mean like sort of an audio book or perhaps with sound effects. I think that's what you're describing. But no, like a regular film which would appeal to a wide audience, but which might display those challenges and how to overcome them and the experience of someone who is blind.
One of the things I used to do, and I'm going to start doing it again, it seems, when I used to work for the Commission for Persons with Disability, was give talks to different entities. I think I gave a talk to either student doctors or actual doctors once or twice. And I believe that in an organization like our local Mater Dei, people should be trained how to interact with different disabilities, different impairments. Okay, let's put it that way. I think it's better that way. The way a person would guide a blind person is not the same way that a person would speak to a hearing impaired person. And by hearing impaired, I'm not saying totally deaf, but also people like me, because I'm going to be 72 in a few days, start losing their sense of hearing. It is not the same way that you interact with a person using a wheelchair, who when approaching the main desk would find the desk towering above him. It could be changed by a small bit of that desk being lower, so that the person won't be overwhelmed with this high thing above him or her. So yeah, and part of the organization I belong to, there's a section called Meet and Greet, and maybe, I'm not sure, but we may try to give some information to the medical sector. So we'll see. It's still in the beginning, it's still in the planning stage, but I believe that, yes, you are the people who meet a lot of people with different, shall we say, problems or challenges, and you could be a great source of encouragement by at least, even if you have a small leaflet would say, look, Approach have this, and this, you know, and it would encourage the person to go to Approach and get the necessary help or support that they need. Chris, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. I'm currently looking online, seeing. Hello? Sorry, it seems I'm having some connection issues. Thanks for the information, Charles. Yeah, I think a meet and greet would be very, very useful, and perhaps even in the early stages of medical school, because the early stage of medical school is where there's a lot of theory but very little practice, and I think a sort of meet and greet would really help with sort of breaking the ice of how to approach someone who is blind, and using the correct terminology, and just making the overall experience in hospital just much less frightening, because for many patients it's already a very unfamiliar environment, a lot of procedures which cause a lot of pain, and for someone who is visually impaired, then that's a bigger problem, because you have to convey exactly what you're doing, and what the patient is going to feel, and frankly we don't have that much experience with it.
You know, Chris, most medicines these days have Braille on it, so the first and very important thing is to try to get visually impaired people to learn it. And unfortunately, not many people do learn it. You know, Braille is a series of embossed dots, and if you take a look at practically any medicine, even the one you use for headaches, there is Braille on it. One which I didn't find any Braille on, believe it or not, was an eye ointment. Sorry about that, but that's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You know, I have a question for you, Charlie, on 7APW.
Boss.
Oh, now you call me boss, huh? One of your jobs was to help direct people to places where they can get help in order to make their disability a bit more manageable, and obviously their life as well. If or when someone becomes suddenly disabled, and what by suddenly I mean, something has happened in their life, whether they lost the person who was taking care of them, or were involved in some kind of accident, or whatever. Is there a keen awareness as to where you can go for help, or is it just still somewhat of a mystery?
Well, the place that I used to work has now become this word it most times escapes me. Sort of an overseer. They don't have any services anymore, and all the services for all the different impairments are handled by an organization called Upwatch. There is also a web page written by a friend of mine where they also list the different organizations, NGOs, for different impairments, different disabilities. And I will try to find it for you, but there is a web page where all these NGOs and all of the other organizations which provide, even government organizations which provide services and support. One of the first things when a person starts to either lose their sight or any other impairment is encouragement. And besides that, you need that support. And also the family needs that support. And a big, should I say, a big yes for that is to know where to go to get help. Yes. And now, as it stands, the Agencia Support, or Support Agency in English, provides all these different. They also have social workers and psychologists, and different professions to support and help a person who starts to get disabled.
Well, you see, my fundamental question is, let's say I came to Malta. I haven't been to Malta in decades, so I don't know what's available. And for some reason I became disabled and decided to stay on the island. How would I find out where to go? I mean, I understand asking people. I get that, but are these services freely advertised, or are they you have to be there or know somebody? You know where I'm going with this.
Okay, if you go to the internet, both Agencia Support and also the whole scenario have very good web pages, and sometimes, because I did visit a number of times, they link to one another. So yes, if you are computer literate, it won't be very difficult to get to the bottom of what you want to know. If you need, for example, a personal assistant, they will give you the information how to go to get your personal assistant, where to get funds, etc., etc., etc. If you need, for example, equipment, they will tell you what sort of subsidies there are on equipment. Some equipment, most of our equipment, even a simple braille watch or talking watch, we have to get from abroad. They are not readily available in Malta. In fact, I have just bought myself a body thermometer which speaks. I had to get it from the UK because it's cheaper than getting it from the States. And of course, as things stand now, I had to pay customs and VAT on that. But at least I've got the equipment because it's not available here. And yes, they will tell you what sort of subsidies. When I got this phone, I had some subsidy, so the phone was, well, it came cheaper than the full price because I had some subsidy on the phone, on the talking phone.
Okay, I see where you're coming from, but obviously, and this is not to argue anything, but let's take the assumption out of the way. The assumption is that you are disabled and you have access and know how to access and use a computer and the internet. So let's say you became blind yesterday, and after a period of moping around, you decide, I need to get back to life. I need to pick up where I left off and get some help. Then what, Charlie?
Where are you going to? Being a small island, even if you go to the local council or phone the local council, they will have quite a good amount of information that they can give you, so you can get started. If you are not computer literate, this is the question: what do you do? If you have family members who are computer literate, maybe they can find out for you.
So basically, the bottom line is very simple. When your life changes drastically, and I agree with that, you have to have help, because at first, at least, you can't help yourself at all. And some people never get out from under that, but most people do. The saying, where there's a will, there's a way, always holds true. Okay, that makes sense to me, because, I was listening to you and I'm going, well, you're assuming you know how to access the computer, you're computer literate, and you are when you had sight, but now all of a sudden somebody took that completely away. And it doesn't matter whether you know, because you can't do anything for a period of time. So, and Chris was talking about hospitals and how scary they are. Well, I'm 70 years old now, and I still have the white lab coat syndrome, which means I'm still very hesitant to be around doctors, nurses, hospitals, etc. And I don't think it'll ever go away. By the way, this is M7APW with the 9H HAM GlobalNet. Very interesting topic. I hope everybody's enjoying it. And another topic that comes to mind comes from Chris, through osmosis, I suppose, Chris. But while you were talking, I was thinking, it might be a good topic to pick up on how people's life changes as we age. We were talking about disabilities, and obviously, while nobody wants to label anything as a disability, but depending on who you are, and obviously I can talk about myself, you become less and less able to do things independently or as independently as you used to before. So life becomes a bit more challenging, and sometimes much more challenging. So there is that change too that a lot of people seem to overlook too. It's just like, oh, I used to walk around the island and this and that, and now I can't even walk into the kitchen. So sad but true. But then you learn to adapt and live around it. All right, back to Charlie and the Net and 7APW. And if you'd like to pursue that topic, I think it's quite useful.
Although that according to legislation, all medicines should be labeled in Braille, as I said before, not many people learn Braille. And if your visual impairment is caused by diabetes, it is sometimes extremely hard to learn Braille because of the sense of touch. Well, Chris could explain it better than I could, but for a diabetic person who became blind because of diabetes at a reasonably senior age, it is not very easy because the feeling starts going from your fingers, and of course you cannot feel the Braille. So there are there are other alternatives called, for example, Be My Eyes, Google Lookout, which help people who are visually impaired read labels, etc., 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 which they need. You could even go to a shop and there's some app which can read the barcodes for you. So then you know that this is tomatoes from Malta and the other one is tomatoes from Egypt, etc. If they have tomatoes in Egypt, I don't know. 9H1FBS.
Well, when you stop and think about it, somebody feel free to jump in. But when you stop and think about it, I can't imagine personally, and it's always on my mind, but I can't imagine a person who has lost 2 or more senses and how challenging it is for them to live day by day, every day, and it happens, and it's very admirable, but losing one sense is plenty more than enough. But and of course it's not funny. But I just can't imagine that. That just boggles my mind to the max. And 7APW.
I don't know about you lot, but the net has been running for over an hour and a half. If you would like to continue, my dog is very happily going in and out of the open balcony I have at the back of the house. There is a breeze blowing. He's happy, no barking, but when my friend came in to see him, oh boy. Well, first he barked and then he started licking her. So, I went out to lunch today and I came back and he was, oh, he's back. Now I have something else to play with.
Charlie, that was a great topic. It was a very interesting net, and thanks for all the insight and information.
9H1FPS, 9H5FA. I've been here listening, and I can't agree more with Jerry regarding these challenges, which I would imagine people with such disabilities face. It is wonderful when you see people overcoming these challenges. And the first time I actually met Charles, you might not remember this, was I was in a Christian group, prayer group, and he had come. I'm not sure who had arranged for his, and he had sort of given us his experience of how he gets on his daily life with this impairment. And he had brought his guitar and played something, and I think he had also mentioned amateur radio. And that was amazing. Back to the floor. This is 9 Hotel 5 Foxtrot Alpha.
Another idea has come into my head. Maybe as the exams are over and summer is nearly over, I could go to the club, both clubs, or 4 or 5, I don't know how many there are. I could give a short talk there, because you know, the more people know on how to interact with different disabilities, the less they will be afraid of them. People sometimes don't approach because they are afraid. I might say the wrong thing. I might offend her or him. The blah blah, you know. And I'm not joking. I'm serious. I have spoken to university students who told me, we never thought that, because we are from Slima, we see you, you know. We never thought how the word in Maltese is fubbly you are, and how easy it is to talk to you, and how easy it is if you are going to cross the street. In those days I didn't have any mobility training yet. How easy it is for us to help you. So yeah, maybe somebody can bring it up in committee, and I could give a short talk, any length, up to well, I don't know, you know, 15 minutes, half an hour. It might enlighten some people. Go ahead.
Charles, I think that's a very good idea. I mean, it's so difficult to contact the secretaries of both clubs. There are just 2 clubs on the island at the moment. And I'm sure they'll be able to oblige. I think that's an excellent idea, and it would empower sort of other radio hams to encourage colleagues with disabilities or friends with disabilities to get into something new that's very real and very possible.
Yeah, I'd take your brailer with you or something, Charlie, and get on the radio at the club station too.
Yeah, your any tone can talk. So that would be a good idea to show, you know, these devices to other hams. I'm not sure there are most hams who know the trade. There are radios which can talk, besides sort of these Baofeng Chinese radios which you can set to sort of start reading out what's on the display. But yours is a much better dual band and DMR set, which would be much more useful to anyone than common offering dual band.
Anthony, do you know if Charlie can use a digital radio HT to get reliably into 9H1 DMR from the clubs? I would assume the one in Tarfa is easy peasy, but I think the other one, which is I think in Attard, is probably the same. What do you think?
G3TZM, the DMR transmitter, the DMR repeater is in Nashar, and it's very high up, and it's easily accessible from many parts of Malta with a handheld.
Yeah, I could just sort of drive up to the club and try it out with my DMR radio and see how the reception is. Never actually tried it, but usually get very good reception all over the island on the DMR, as Ian was saying.
Yeah, well, maybe somebody could help me program the 9H1 DMR-L on my little GD77. I do have 9H1 UHF, but I don't have 9H1 DMR-L. I don't have the UHF frequency to it.
Do you have a programming cable, Charles?
Yeah, it's dash R.
I think you jumped on one another. Anthony, what did you ask?
Do you have a programming cable for your radio?
Minish it, my friend. What is it? What is it?
To connect the radio to a computer and program it that way. I'm not sure if you can program yours manually from the keypad. We can check that out. If you can do it, I can program it for you on the on the DMR repeater.
Seven APW. The answer to your question is yes, Anthony. And if you want to do it, I can send you the code key with whatever's in his radio. Of course, you can just export it as well. But let me know, and we'll make it happen.
Yes, Jerry, send me the code plug if you have it. I'll be careful not to upload a messed up code plug, but I'll play with it a bit on my computer with the Editone software before actually doing it. Let's see, because all these code plugs tend to be a bit different for different digital radios.
Yes, that's very true, because I have both the Radioddity GD77 and the the other one, Anytone. That's it. Yeah, no problem. I'll put that in there, and if you can send me the frequencies of the 9H1 DMR repeater, I'll jot those down as well. But it should be fairly straightforward. In fact, you know, I can update the code plug for you if you wish and send it to you, and then you can just load it into the radio, and with the hope that I do good work. Either way, in the past I've dialed in to Charlie's computer and used the software that's on his computer and linked it to the radio and uploaded the new file that way. So either way works, and they takes a little time, but I have a lot of that. And 7APW.
G3TZM. Yeah, from G3TZM. Jerry, if you can read the messages on Echo Link, the frequencies are on there for you, over.
I'm using the phone, Echo Link on the phone, so if you can send them again, because unless I get into the messages first, they won't appear. But if you can copy and paste it again, I'd appreciate it. Bill, thank you.
Yeah, G3TZM, they're on there now.
They're also on the flyer that Anthony sends every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm going to send you a link from the Brandmaster website for the DMR radio as well, where there are the frequencies and color codes.
I got it, Bill. Thank you.
Anthony, do you hear this noise every once in a while? It goes beep.
I do as well, Charles, over.
It's over with Ian.
That I thought it was one of them. Then I realized it was coming from my computer.
I receive it here as well on Echo Link at G3TZ.
Hey guys, I'm leaving. Have a good evening, everybody. And thank you for a wonderful net, and we'll do it again in 2 weeks. And 7APW, it's nap time.
Thanks a lot, Jerry. If you send over that code plug, I'll fix a day and time with Charlie, and I'll hop over to his place and get the code plug uploaded, and we can try it out.
Usual, thank you very much for all your help, and have a good evening, and I hope you recover very, very soon and get back to normal everyday activities. And 7APW is clear.